This is the Gospel of Mark, chapter number 4. Once again, a great crowd gathered around him on the beach as he was teaching, so that he got into a boat and he sat down and he talked from there. His usual method of teaching was to tell the people stories. One of them went like this. Listen, a farmer decided to sow some grain. As he scattered it across the field, some of it fell on a path, and the birds came and picked it off the hard ground and they ate it. Some fell on thin soil with underlying rock. It grew up quickly enough, but soon wilted beneath the hot sun and died because the roots had no nourishment in the shallow soil. Other seeds fell among thorns that shot up and crowded the young plants so that they produced no grain. But some of them fell into good soil and yielded 30 times as much as he had planted. Some of it even 60 or 100 times as much. So if you have ears, listen. Afterwards, when he was alone with the 12 and with the other disciples, they asked, "What does this story mean?" He replied, "You are permitted to know some truths about the kingdom of God that are hidden for those outside the kingdom. Though they see and hear, they will not understand or turn to God or be forgiven of their sins." But if you can't understand this simple illustration, what will you do about all the others that I am going to tell? The farmer that I talked about is anyone who brings God's message to others, trying to plant good seed into their lives. The hard pathway with some of the seed, where some of the seed fell. And it represents the hard hearts of some of those who hear God's message. After they hear the message, Satan comes at once and tries to make them forget it. The rocky soil represents the hearts of those who hear the message with joy. But like young plants in such soil, their roots don't go very deep. And though at first they get along fine, but as soon as persecution begins, they wilt or fall away. The thorny ground represents the hearts of people who listen to the good news and they receive it. But all too quickly, the attraction of this world and the delights of wealth and the search for success and the lure of nice things come in and crowd out God's message from their hearts so that no crop is produced. But the good soil represents the hearts of those who truly accept God's message and produce a plentiful harvest for God. 30, 60, or even 100 times as much as was planted in their hearts. And then he asked them, when somebody lights a lamp, does he put a box over it to shut out the light? Of course not. The light couldn't then be seen or used. A lamp is placed on a stand to shine and to be useful. All that is now hidden will someday come to light. If you have ears, listen, and be sure to put into practice what you hear. Because the more you do this, the more you will understand what I tell you. To him who shall be given, from him who has not shall be taken away even what he has. Here's another story illustrating what the kingdom of God is like. A farmer sowed his field, and he went away. And as the days went by, the seeds grew and grew and grew without his help. For the soil made the seeds to grow. First a leaf blade pushed through, and later the weed heads formed, and finally the grain ripened, and then the farmer came at once with his sickle and harvested it. And so Jesus asked, how can I describe the kingdom of God? What story shall I use to illustrate it? It is like a tiny mustard seed. Though this is one of the smallest of seeds, yet it grows to become one of the largest of plants with the long branches where birds can build their nests and be sheltered. Jesus used many such illustrations to teach the people as much as they were ready to understand. In fact, he taught only by illustrations in his public teaching. But afterwards, when he was alone with his disciples, he would explain his meaning to them. So as evening fell, Jesus said to his disciples, let's cross over to the other side of the lake. So they took him just as he was and started out, leaving the crowd behind, though other boats also followed. But soon, as they were on their way, a terrible storm arose. High waves began to break into the boat until it was nearly full of water and about to sink. While this was happening, Jesus was asleep at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. Frantically, they wakened him and shouted, "Teacher, don't you even care that we are all about to drown?" Then he rebuked the wind and he said to the sea, "Quiet down." And the wind fell, and there was a great calm. And he asked them, "Why were you so fearful? Don't you even yet have confidence in me?" And they were filled with awe, and they said among themselves, "Who is this man that even the winds and the seas obey him?" This is the Gospel of Mark, chapter number 5. When they arrived at the other side of the lake, a demon-possessed man ran out from the graveyard, just as Jesus was climbing from the boat. This man lived among the gravestones, and he had such strength that whenever he was put into handcuffs and shackles, as he often was, he snapped and broke the handcuffs from his wrist, and he smashed the shackles and walked away. No one was strong enough to control him. All day long and through the night, he would wander among the tombs and in the wild hills, screaming and cutting himself with sharp pieces of stone. When Jesus was still far out on the water, the man had seen him and had run to meet him and fell down before him. Then Jesus spoke to the demon within the man and he said, "Come out, you evil spirit." It gave a terrible scream, shrieking, "What are you doing to us? What are you going to do with us, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? For God's sake, don't torture me." "What is your name?" Jesus asked. And the demon replied, "My name is Legion, for there are many of us here within this man." Then the demons begged Jesus again and again not to send them to some distant land. Now, as it happened, there was a huge herd of pigs walking around on the hill above the lake. And the demons said, "Send us into those pigs." And Jesus gave them permission. Then the evil spirits came out of the man and they entered the pigs. And the entire herd of pigs plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned. The shepherds fled to the nearby towns and the countryside, and they were spreading the news as they ran. Everyone rushed out to see for themselves. And the large crowd soon gathered where Jesus was. But as they saw the man sitting there, fully clothed and perfectly sane, they were frightened. Those who saw what happened were telling everyone about it. And the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and to leave them alone. So he got back into the boat. The man who had been possessed by the demons begged Jesus to let him go along. But Jesus said no. Jesus said to him, "Go to your friends and tell them what wonderful things God has done for you and how merciful he has been to you." So the man started off to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to tell everyone about the great things Jesus had done for him. And they were all of them were awestruck by his story. When Jesus had gone across by boat to the other side of the lake, a big crowd gathered around him on the shore. The leader of the local synagogue, whose name was Jairus, he came and he fell down before him, pleading with him to heal his little daughter. "She's at the point of death," he said in desperation. "Please come and place your hands on her and make her live." So Jesus went with him, and the crowd, they followed behind. In the crowd, there was a woman who had been sick for 12 years with a hemorrhage. She had suffered so much for many years. She had suffered much from many doctors through the years and had become poor from paying them. And she was no better. In fact, she was at that moment when she saw Jesus, she was far worse than ever. She heard about all the wonderful miracles that Jesus did. So that is why she came up behind him through the crowd and she touched his clothes. For she thought to herself, if I can just touch his clothing, I will surely be healed. And sure enough, as soon as she touched him, the bleeding stopped and then she knew that she was well. But Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him. So he turned around in the crowd and he asked, who touched my clothes? His disciples said to him, all this crowd are pressing around you and you asked, who touched you? But he kept on looking around to see who it was who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet and told him what she had done. And he said to the woman, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace, healed of your disease. While he was still talking to her, messengers arrived from Jairus' home with the news that it was too late. His daughter was dead and there was no point in Jesus coming now. But Jesus ignored their commands and said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just trust me. Then Jesus halted and stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go on with him to Jairus' home except Peter and James and John. So when they arrived at Jairus' house, Jesus saw that all of the people that were there was in great confusion because they were weeping and wailing. So he went inside and he spoke to the people. Why all this weeping and all this commotion? The child isn't dead. She's only asleep, he said. They laughed at him in bitter derision. But he told them all to leave. Taking the little girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples, he went into the room where she was lying. Taking the girl by her hand, he said to her, get up, little girl. She was about 12 years old. She jumped up and walked around in the room. Her parents just couldn't get over it. Jesus instructed them very earnestly not to tell what happened. And he told them to give the little girl something to eat.